Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin tonight in the Northwest Territories, where Alberta RCMP will investigate the death of a man in police custody in Yellowknife. At around 4 p.m. yesterday, Yellowknife RCMP responded to a disturbance at a downtown business on 50th Street. When officers arrived, they detained a man who they say appeared intoxicated. RCMP say shortly after, the man showed signs of medical distress. They say life-saving efforts failed and the man was declared dead at the scene. Alberta RCMP is investigating in partnership with the Office of the Chief Coroner. We have breaking news now about a former Yukoner detained in the United States. Jasmine Mooney grew up in Whitehorse. The 35-year-old was detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, after crossing into California from Mexico last week. She was later transferred to an ICE facility in Arizona. Her family and friends lobbied for her release, saying conditions at the facility were inhumane. This afternoon, her father gave this update to Dave White of CBC Yukon's Airplay.
We found out about half hour ago that Jasmine is going to be removed from the Arizona Detention Center and brought back to the Tijuana Detention Center, and she will be released tomorrow night.
And then what happens? Get on a plane from Mexico to, do we know?
Yes. We've set up a ticket, and Jasmine will be flying back from Tijuana into Canada at 10:45 p.m. tomorrow night.
Can you possibly put into words what you're feeling right now?
A lot of relief.
It's okay, man.
Jasmine's a strong girl, but what she has gone through is no one should do that. And she, just the lack of due process and the lack of communication that we've had through that detention center, I feel for, of course, not only Jasmine, but the many other people that are in there. And, today was a big day. We pulled the political strings. We had hooks through political connections into Washington. There were conversations at the highest level, and I would like to think that helped get her released earlier.
Mooney says his daughter has lost weight in the 11 days she was in custody. He says Jasmine is super happy to be getting out. The search for a family of hunters from Kwaktok, Nunavik has ended in tragedy. 2 of the 4 hunters have been found dead. They left on March 6th to hunt between Kwaktok and Kanersuk, and then a blizzard struck. They'd been gone for 5 days before emergency services caught wind of their absence. The mayor of Kwaktok says the search started Monday.
We got a call that there are people that should have been returned, but they didn't.
Early Tuesday morning, the body of a woman was found. Later, her daughter and granddaughter were found alive with frostbite on their feet. On Wednesday afternoon, the 4th hunter, a man, was found dead. Tukiapik says his community is struggling with the news. He's urging residents to support the families of those who died. The winter sitting of the Nunavut legislature has ended, and a lot was covered during the session. MLAs tackled a range of issues, including the budget, student aid, and cultural revitalization. The CBC's Mahnor Mubarak has more.
On the final week, the territory's operational budget was passed, worth over $2 billion. And on the last day of the legislature, 10 bills became law. Among them, the Post-Secondary Student Support Act, that offers increased financial supports, especially for Inuit students. There was also an amendment to the Income Tax Act, which will allow parents to continue to receive the Nunavut Child Benefit up to 6 months after a child's death. This winter sitting, MLAs raised concerns over a number of topics, including the need to revitalize Inuktitut dialects and the need for mental health care workers in communities. MLAs also questioned the territorial government on what it's doing regarding the trade war with the U.S., raising questions about tariffs and the prospect of banning American companies from bidding on government contracts. MLAs now head back to their constituencies. The next legislative session will run from May 22nd to June 3rd. Mahnur Mubarak, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The executive director of an organization dedicated to Inuit well-being says she is relieved that Ottawa renewed funding for the Inuit Child First Initiative. Stephanie Adams is the executive director of the Inuktitut Center for Inuit Children, Youth and Families. The organization is in Ottawa. The city holds the largest population of Inuit outside of Inuit Nunangat. The funding is currently renewed for 1 more year, and Adams says it's extremely important to her organization's programming.
We provide a holistic wraparound service of programs and services for the Inuit community. Without the funding from CFI, we would not have been able to have the positions in our youth programs, mental health programs, and education programs to ensure that the Inuit got the programs and services that they need to ensure that they live a healthy lifestyle in Ottawa.
Adams was in Iqaluit this week, speaking with officials to push for the extension to the funding. A Greenlander who lives in Nunavut is reacting to the victory of the Demokratit Party. The party won 30% of the vote in a surprise victory. The centre-right party won Greenland's parliamentary election on Tuesday. It won just 9% of the vote 4 years ago. Ayu Peter is from Greenland and she lives in Iqaluit. She says Greenland is ready for independence from Denmark.
The Greenlandic leaders are saying that they want to meet with Trump face to face and put him straight that Greenland is not for sale. It will always be the land of the Greenlanders.
The election came in the wake of U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to take control of the island. The Demokratit Party has consistently supported Greenland's sovereignty. The Justin Trudeau era in Ottawa is coming to a close. A new prime minister is about to be sworn in, and so is a new cabinet. Ashley Burke has that story.
Behind closed doors, Justin Trudeau's wrapping up his last full day in office. The Prime Minister posting his farewell online, titled One Last Thing.
I'm proud to have served a country full of people who stand up for what's right, rise to every occasion, and always have each other's backs when it matters most.
His departing message, one of Canadian pride.
This may be my last day here in this office, but I will always be boldly and unapologetically Canadian.
After more than 9 years in power, Trudeau will head to Rideau Hall tomorrow and resign. Then his successor, Mark Carney, and his cabinet will be sworn in.
This is a group of people that need to be ready to face the threats that we are facing from the United States on the trade front.
Sources say after he won the Liberals' leadership race on Sunday, Carney's been planning a much leaner cabinet, a team of 15 to 20 ministers laser-focused on fighting the trade war and this promise.
Change that builds the strongest economy in the G7.
Sources say these 3 ministers handling Canada's response to the trade war are among those expected to be part of Carney's cabinet.
Will be his prerogative to tell us who will be a part of his next cabinet.
Sources tell Radio Canada Stephen Guilbeault will be moved to a new role in cabinet, but he wouldn't say today.
I have served Canadians as their Minister of Environment and Climate Change, which has certainly been the privilege of a lifetime for me.
Mark Carney's transition team is currently planning what his first few days as Prime Minister will look like. Sources say he's expected to trigger an election sometime this month, sending Canadians to the poll at the end of April or early May to decide if he should be the one to lead this country in a time of turmoil. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Federal Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Ontario Premier Doug Ford have wrapped up their meeting in Washington. They talked trade issues with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick amid Donald Trump's escalating tariff war with Canada. Ford called the conversation very positive. Mike Crawley reports.
In the Oval Office, U.S. President Donald Trump is asked whether he'll back down from the tariffs he's slapped on Canada.
No, I'm not going to bend at all. Aluminum or steel or cars.
And then, alongside the NATO Secretary General, he talks about annexing a NATO member.
Canada only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S., just a straight artificial line.
Premier Ford, what are you holding?
Not the most encouraging tone for this Canadian delegation arriving in Washington to talk tariffs with Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick.
Canada exists, completely feeds off of the amazing economy of the United States of America. Let us build up our steel and aluminum so that we can protect ourselves. And by the way, we protect Canada.
Still, ahead of meeting Lutnick, Ontario Premier Doug Ford takes his anti-tariff message to Trump's favorite news channel.
Why attack your best neighbor, your treasured ally, that we're your number one customer? So this does not make sense. I mark my words, it will hurt the American people.
And when Ford emerges from the meeting, his tone is upbeat.
I can honestly say it was the best meeting I've ever had coming down here. Shared a tremendous amount of views back and forth, and I'm feeling very positive.
Ford also says the meeting turned down the temperature between Canada and the U.S. However, there were no commitments from Lutnick to drop any tariffs on Canada. Another meeting is planned for next week, this one involving officials from both sides of the border. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Washington.
Forced and coerced sterilization of Indigenous people is still happening. The Survivors Circle for Reproductive Justice has supports available for Indigenous survivors. Join the National Registry and access up to $70,000 in healing support funds for individuals, families, and communities. The deadline to apply is March 31st. If you or someone you know has experienced forced and coerced sterilization, please call 1-877-386-0750 or visit reproductivejusticesurvivors.ca for more information.
Having 2 kids in diapers impacts every part of our lives. The Canada Child Benefit allows us to give our boys extracurricular activities. It opens their world.
Find out if you qualify at canada.ca/everydollar-counts.
When you're able to take the next step and invest in yourself and your future, that brings a ton of security.
Definitely something we never thought we'd be able to get if it wasn't for the home buyers plan.
Find out if you qualify at canada.ca/everydollar-counts.
You are finally here.
Come on! Just talk to me.
Woo!
All you have to do is look.
Nothing can stand in your way. Are you still nervous?
No, I'm not anymore.
GST, HST credit, I wasn't expecting a lot back, but when I did check my account randomly and I seen it there, I was like, oh wow, it's a nice little surprise. Just getting that little extra, it means a lot.
Find out if you qualify at canada.ca/everydollar-counts.
A Yellowknife couple is ready to retire and travel the world, but first they need someone to buy their business, which has been up for sale for years. As the CBC's Luke Carroll found out, the problem isn't a lack of buyers.
A longtime bed and breakfast owner in Yellowknife is trying to sell her business. She's had interested buyers, but 4 years have passed and no one has been able to take over. Faith Embleton has been running Embleton House Bed and Breakfast in downtown Yellowknife for over 25 years. She's 75 and her husband Ken, who's the co-owner, is 80. Embleton says they're ready to retire and have been for years.
Had many interested people in buying it. In fact, there are probably 20. But the problem is they cannot get the funding.
The property is listed at $1.25 million. It's appraised value. Embleton says the lenders want a 75% down payment, which is significantly higher than most commercial purchases, which are at about 20%. Eben Viennes is a bed and breakfast consultant. He says a 75% down payment is the highest he's heard of. But he says there is a few reasons for why it may be so high.
Generally speaking, again, a property maybe was not, was underperforming from a financial perspective. The cash flow wasn't there to support, the price with a typical 20% down. down payment.
Embleton says one of the lenders is Prosper NWT, a public agency that supports economic development. Embleton says she has seen documentation asking for the 75% down payment from Prosper NWT. CBC News hasn't seen these documents, but asked Prosper NWT about that amount. A spokesperson responded by email to say they couldn't comment on specific cases and aren't aware of any issues involving the sale of a bed and breakfast. But in that email, they added that commercial property down payments depend on many factors, including the applicant's credit and how successful the business is. Embleton says she doesn't understand why the down payment is so high, and neither do some of her guests. Glenn and Sandy Edgemont are from Washington State. They've been visiting Yellowknife and staying at Embleton House for over 20 years. They consider each other basically family now.
I've watched their struggles here trying to sell the place with amazement, like what's going on here, that they have a fully booked business, all that seems booked solid all the time, and they cannot move this property. And I feel for them because they've run it, and they've been there their whole lives too. It's just baffles me that they've had this much trouble.
Embleton says she wants to travel and go visit some former guests who live in Japan, but she won't be doing that until the place sells. Luke Carroll, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Canadian military is training for potential conflicts in the north. CBC was one of 3 media organizations invited to a training exercise in the Aouichi territory of northern Quebec. Given the current geopolitical context, this type of exercise has taken on new importance. Natalia Veixel reports.
If a military conflict came to Canada's north, it might look something like this. This is an exercise. Nearly 200 members of the 34th Canadian Brigade Group in the Aouichi region of northern Quebec.
La force amie, qui est quelque part dans la forêt ici, va sortir, puis va se mettre en position pour faire une attaque.
Basically, my role as a section commander was to lead my part of the section, which was part of the assault.
On the skidoo here, we can see the medic sled. So this is where the injured enemy has been transported, and they're going to take it away to another location. This is all part of their military exercise to help the armed forces practice in this kind of terrain here.
We don't know the maps, we don't know the people, we don't know the area. It's a major challenge for our troops.
There's no base near here. All the military's equipment needs to be transported from Montreal, some by air, but mostly by road. Phone signals and communication lines are sparse, so are roads and other infrastructure.
One of the biggest challenges for Canada's military up in the north is asserting their presence and their capabilities over such a vast, and I mean vast, territory. Canada's north makes up about 40% of the country's entire landmass, and this region stretches for about 4 million square kilometers.
Canada is about the north, our north strong and free. So we can't just be able to operate in the south, we need to be able to project our forces if needs be, depending on the needs of the government, and being able to deploy, survive, operate, accomplish the mission.
Military exercises like this are actually quite common. The Canadian Armed Forces will carry them out approximately once a year, but there's clear reasons why this time they wanted it to be seen, and not just by Canadians.
In an era of rising geopolitical tensions, projecting strength is important for many countries, Canada included.
Every Western nation start to look at their own weakness when facing Russia. For Canadian, it's normal to look up north and to say, okay, we know that Russians are very present in their part of the Arctic.
But Russia isn't the only preoccupation. There's now also a possible threat much closer to home.
There's a risk that the American administration wants to challenge Canadian claims on some area of the north, namely the Northwest Passage, which are the maritime route that are going through the Canadian archipelago, and in the Beaufort Sea, near the Alaska and Yukon's border. It's possible that the Trump administration wants to revive these conflict and contest openly Canadian claims on this region.
Even before Donald Trump's re-election, the federal government had committed to increasing military spending, with a pledge in the spring of 2024 to boost capabilities in the north.
It is important for us to have the capacity to be present and to defend our sovereignty. And that's the main goal of any armed force, is to defend their country, defend the citizens. And so we need to be able to do it in any environment, on any ground.
And this ground is Cree territory, so partnership with the local community is essential, much of which happens through the Canadian Rangers, a subcomponent of the Army Reserve, nearly a quarter of which are Indigenous, like Cree Nation of Chisasibi member Alvin Cash.
Their head office is down south. We're up here providing that information. Same time, we use our own culture, how much we know the territory, to provide that service and pass the information to the military. Because it's an isolation area. The weather here is unpredictable. Could have all whiteouts. That's why the Rangers are pretty known their territories and their roots and their culture.
You can see that there's a clear exchange of traditional knowledge being shared with the Canadian military. Everything from how to understand the terrain, how to operate in the snow, how to tolerate the cold and, build a shelter.
Definitely the cold was the biggest challenge. Also the amount of snow, the expertise with the snowshoes and in the environment, everything comes from them.
The Council of the Cree Nation of Chisasibi says there was consultation and community involvement in the lead up to the exercise, and that it welcomes this collaboration.
And when you have guests come in, people love to share those customs and traditions of how to build a dwelling, how to survive in the wintertime. And there's a word for agodosunano, is when you have an emergency situation, what do you do? What kind of shelter can you build? How do you start the fire? So that's the exchange that I see.
And that's been probably the best success so far, is the way we connected with the Chisasibi Cree Nation. They're wonderful hosts, and we need them to help us, to guide us. They know all the trails. They've been here from generation to generation. They know how to survive in this environment, and they teach it to our soldiers as well.
And our thanks to the CBC's Natalia Veixel for that piece. An under-18 hockey team from Northbeat Nunavut is celebrating this week. The team came out on top during this year's Polar Bear Cup final match in Rankin Inlet. The tournament has been around for over 25 years, and as the CBC's Noel Kaludjak tells us, the win was hard-fought.
It was a thrilling end to this year's Polar Bear Plate in Rankin Inlet. Northbeat's Eskimo Point team came out on top, beating Nauyat 3-2 in a hard-fought gold medal game last weekend. The tournament was started in 1999, and it is a popular under-18 full-body contact NHL-style tournament. Team Northbeat has taken part since it started, but has never won the plate. Northbeat coach Gleason Upahawk says the game was hard-fought.
We worked very hard to win and stay out of the penalty box.
The best goalie award went to Eskimo Point Tucker St. John. He says it was all about focus.
They really battled out there, those guys. Gave it their all.
How many shots did you face?
I'm not too sure. I don't count the shots. I'm too focused on the game.
Ryan St. John says he was very happy, and it is special as he has been coaching these kids for a long time.
Yes, this is the very first time to win this tournament. The team from Northbeat has come to this tournament every year.
The tournament will be held again in 2026 in Rankin Inlet. Organizers say they welcome teams from Nunavut to challenge the Polar Bear Plate. Noel Kaludjak, CBC News, Rankin Inlet.
And for Yukon hockey fans, there's a major upgrade at this year's Yukon Native Hockey Tournament. All games will be live streamed for the first time. The Yukon First Nations Hockey Association has partnered with a White Horse production company. The free broadcast will feature multiple camera angles, slow motion instant replay, and live commentary, some of which will be in the Kaska language. The tournament coordinator says there's a growing interest in the tournament. This year, the association is welcoming 60 teams, the most yet.
just to see it, the language and the culture revitalized. And that's what the tournament is about. It's like there's so many cultures coming together for one weekend. You know, you coming from Northwest Territories, Northern BC, Alberta. It's just our culture is thriving. It's just grown so big, so many teams, the interest. We've always done some sort of live stream like with Facebook, but it's just not on the scale of the live broadcasting. So this is huge.
The tournament gets underway March 20th in Whitehorse, and of course, people can watch all the games online through the tournament's website. 3 Inuit artists have been chosen for the Winnipeg Art Gallery's Artist in Residence program. The artists were selected by a committee from the Nunavut government and the Winnipeg Art Gallery. Jamesy Itulu from Pond Inlet specializes in digital illustrations. He says he's inspired by anime, nature, and science fiction. Itulu says he plans to explore different mediums during his time at the gallery. Martha Sikinik Apaluktuk Hicks is from Baker Lake. She's from a long line of artists and is the granddaughter of Jesse Unak. Apaluktuk Hicks is a prolific textile artist with an interest in traditional beadwork on headbands and a moutie. She hopes to expand her knowledge of Inuit printmaking at WAG. And Joe Haven artist Andrew Palongayak is a carver who works in stone, whalebone, and caribou antler. He hopes to create new art in a variety of mediums while he is in Winnipeg. This is the 2nd annual residency program, and it's 4 weeks long. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
Earth is our collective home that makes us all family. As family, we strive to love and protect each other. Diversity of species is our strength. We are all connected. We survive and thrive together. We celebrate many things this season and make many choices. Taking care of our family should be the easiest. We're in this together.
One good scheme deserves another. Stay on him.
I feel we may be in for a challenging few days.
Cheers. Cheers.
$12 new records for a penny.
Sounds too good to be true.
It's not a scam. Cancel anytime. It's all in the fine print.
You're going to end up on the hook for a lot more.
You think I'm stupid? I used your name to sign up.
Stream anytime. CBC News.